Well, Night of Jobbers is officially over, and I think it's safe to say this is probably one of, if not the, I mean, I guess every PLE that's come out this year has been one of the worst of the year, but at the end of the day, this was just bottom tier garbage, man. There was 2 championship defenses on a Night of Champions card, which goes to show you knew that this PLE was going to be, just filler garbage, and most of these matches were going to be Raw or SmackDown level matches. Hence why we got Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez, we got Jade versus Asuka, which is realistically a Raw match, and honestly, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton should be a PLE level match, but the way it was built, this really could have main evented a SmackDown, and we could have moved on with it, let's be honest with ourselves. So, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you also had Karrion Kross versus Sami Zayn, which is another glorified Raw match, which was just absolute garbage, but it is what it is. Triple H at this point needs to be exposed, and he needs to be fired. The guy does the same thing in every single big match. You had Cena and Punk tonight. Cena and Punk ends with the same thing he's been doing for a year and a half at this point since Mania 40. A bunch of random people show up at the end. You get a bunch of pops and reactions. They overload you with a bunch of people showing up. It gets messy and convoluted, but you'll only remember the crowd pops, and this person showed up, and that person showed up, and this person's here, that person's here, and then you can't process what you just watched, so that everyone just goes, wow, this is awesome. This is awesome. No, it's not. This is convoluted. This is messy booking. Nobody wants to see this garbage, and you know that, man. Roman Reigns, for example, I have to bring this guy up because, listen, here's the deal with Roman Reigns. Despite the fact that he does not show up, he is most obviously the last real superstar in professional wrestling, because at the end of the day, he's the last dude who's coming through the WWE pipeline who can be the #1 draw, be one of the top promo workers in the company, the best storyteller in the company, also sell merch, obviously, right? Be the most interesting wrestler on the planet, the biggest draw on the planet, and do all of this while putting on multiple elite level, PLE level matches. This is the last guy who's able to do that at a consistent level, and you know that. None of these dudes, you look at these jobbers coming out throughout this PLE. Why am I watching a Sami Zayn versus Karrion jobber match? What is the reasoning for this? Solo Sakoa versus Jacob Fatu, which honestly is arguably the best part of the night, but even then, why is that on a PLE card? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not acceptable, man. It really isn't. But we're going to break it down. We're going to go through the matches, and we're going to discuss this because this was an absolute disaster as far as I'm concerned. Now, before we get into the matches, I do want to mention, we need new stars. We just need new stars. Triple H has to be let go at this point, man. At least Vince McMahon would experiment with people besides John Cena and Randy Orton, the 2 top guys pretty much for Vince McMahon's time, obviously, okay? And obviously, Triple H has his guys, Cody Rhodes, Gunther, and basically, for the woman, it's Rhea Ripley, and that's pretty much it. Everyone else, for the most part, is treated and booked like a jobber. Roman Reigns had one of the greatest, if not the greatest championship in WWE history, the greatest reign, and he's treated like a jobber who gets pinned by Solo Sikoa, he gets pinned by Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre, after the year he had last year, is relegated to being an undercard jobber wrestling Damian Priest at multiple shows this year. It's not acceptable, man. LA Knight, the list goes on. The bias and the forced pushes are egregious, and we need new stars. I'm tired of seeing Cody Rhodes. I'm tired of seeing Gunther. I'm tired of seeing Rhea Ripley. These guys win every single match. There's no drama. There's no intrigue. There's nothing to it. They kick out of everything. They pin everyone. They have, they're going to end their careers probably with 5+ world titles each, even though Cody's only been prominent in his career for 2 years. He's probably going to have 5 world titles. That's just how he's booked. So it's ridiculous. But with that being said, let's get into the first match. We first off had Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. Now, obviously, this match was a disaster. Triple H always does this thing where a wrestler has a quote-unquote, tweaked injury, or they have an injury, what I'm saying, to a body part, whether it's their leg or their arm or their shoulder hurts or their back hurts or some stuff like that, right? And because of that, that person's going to lose the match. It's a built-in excuse that Triple H books into matches to make the person who loses look strong despite losing because, they only lost because they were injured. Just like they did with Orton and Gunther last year at King of the Ring when they were like, Orton hurt his ribs or he hurt his back. That's the only reason Gunther won this. It's so cheesy, man. Stop booking everyone 50-50 and just have them win matches. Please. If you're going to book Cody to oblivion and make him the top guy, then just have him win the match straight up. We don't need injuries at every single turn to make excuses for everyone, man. Goodness gracious, bro. Anyways, Cody wins this match. Obviously, we already knew this was going to happen. This match was incredibly boring. Randy Orton had basically nearly no offense. You know what I mean? He had a DDT and a couple RKOs, and that's basically it. He went out soft, and he had obviously the injury, so, they basically booked it like that. And the match was just incredibly boring and so slow, man. so slow. I mean, goodness gracious. There was basically zero memorable spots. They tried to do a disaster kick into an RKO. The RKO was slightly kind of botched a little bit. You know, they had a moment where what's it called? Cody Rhodes was attacking Randy Orton's ribs and back, and you know, I guess that's kind of alluding to the fact that Cody will turn heel eventually. I made a video about this week. He probably is going to turn heel soon, or at least eventually, but at the end of the day, I don't care. Cody Rhodes does not need this match. This match means nothing to me. He pinned John Cena, the WWE champion, at Money in the Bank. He also, he lost, unclean at WrestleMania, and Cody Rhodes just won the King of the Ring. So either way you look at it, even before this, he had a championship reign that was awful, but it lasted over a year. He should have all the freedom to request a rematch. If Rhea Ripley can get rematches, Liv Morgan was about to get a rematch before she got hurt. Gunther got a rematch. Why is Cody Rhodes not getting a rematch? Why did Roman Reigns not get a rematch when he was the 4-year champ? So none of this stuff makes any sense. This match is pointless. They threw it on the card and Cody Rhodes won. There's nothing to say about this. Randy Orton this is one of the stupidest endings to a match I've ever seen. Randy Orton for the last few weeks on SmackDown has complained about, I'll do whatever it takes to win, Cody. There is not one thing that will stop me from doing what it takes to beat you and destroy you and get that championship match versus Cena at SummerSlam. Okay, he'll do whatever it is to win. That's what he says, right? In the actual match, when Cody's, bet down and he's in position to get, punted in the skull, punted in the head, Randy Orton thinks about it for 30 seconds and then chooses not to do it and ends up losing the match because of it. He could have knocked this dude out and chose not to do it, but allegedly Orton's doing whatever he takes to win. The booking is just atrocious, man. Like, I don't understand how this dude's getting away with this. And by this dude, I mean Triple H, obviously, the game, triple fraud. But that's the situation with that, okay? Randy Orton basically loses this match. He goes outside of the ring in another stupid decision and grabs a steel chair. Not sure why he grabbed it. You can say he tried to grab it to distract the ref so he can go take out the turnbuckle, but why would Randy Orton be trying to expose the turnbuckle? So you'll expose the turnbuckle and try and use a steel chair, but you won't do a simple punt to the skull to knock out your opponent and get your title, but potentially, take back your title that you never lost, yeah. This is just bad. I don't even want to talk about this match anymore. Cody Rhodes won the match. He wins off a crossroads because Orton got, slammed into his ribs into the exposed turnbuckle, and Cody Rhodes cuts a promo afterwards, basically saying that at SummerSlam, he's going to get the ball back. I don't really care about this. No one wants to see Cody versus Cena again. Nobody wants to see Cody Rhodes as champion again. Even if he turns heel and The Rock is beside his side, which, I'm assuming that's going to be the route that they go down. Even if they do that, I just have to see the execution of that because Cody Rhodes has given me zero reason to trust anything he's doing. So we'll see about that. We then move on to get Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez. Now, there's two things I want to note before I talk about this match that, were right before this match. Number one, we had a video package. Why is this video package that explained their history and their backstory and gave them lines of dialogue? Why is this not on Raw? Why are we not building to these matches? This just shows you the lack of effort that they do for these matches. They could have shown this on Raw. They could have had them do a promo like this a couple weeks ago, but everything is thought of late. There's no reasoning behind any of this. If you need to throw a match on because Liv got injured, that's cool. Have Io go out there and fight someone for the world title, actually on a Night of Champions show. Why not just have Stephanie Valkyrie go in there and just go fight Io Sky or something? This is just, it's really ridiculous at this point, but they don't put effort in, and it is what it is. And as I always say, you can look at the graphic here on the screen. Rhea Ripley is 31-3 in singles matches since 2022. So in 3 years, she's had 34 matches. That is how many days is 3 years? Around over 1,000 days, and she's had 34 matches. You guys think I'm joking about this stuff. These people do not wrestle. They don't work. They don't hone their skills. That's why Rhea Ripley was on the Chris Van Vliet podcast this week talking about how in some moments she feels rusty because she wasn't wrestling as much in her title reigns. This is not a joke. This is legit. But anyways, we get into the match. This match was about 20 plus minutes, and it had maybe one or two good spots where Raquel slammed Rhea through the announce table cover, which was pretty gnarly. Powerbomb. It was a pretty good spot. And then obviously you had another moment where Rhea hit the riptide off of the top of the table, off the top turnbuckle. So that was good. Outside of that, there's nothing to speak of here. Roxanne Perez got involved, but at the end of the day, she didn't do anything because Rhea Ripley is booked like an unstoppable force. That's just what it is at this point. Rhea Ripley beat up both of them, won the match, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Raquel Rodriguez is supposed to be the enforcer, and she's getting rip-tided off of tables. She has an interference from her partner, and still lost the match anyways. The booking for Rhea Ripley is unacceptable. No one else is getting over. No one else can actually elevate themselves because there's always going to be the unstoppable force that is Rhea Ripley. So until Triple H books her differently, this is what we're going to get, and we have to accept it. So I thought this match was pretty mediocre at best. Their street fight on Raw some months ago was way better than this, in my opinion. We then get Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. This just exposed both of these jobbers for what they really are. Sami Zayn is not a world championship material level guy. I'm sorry. I don't care if you think, oh, well, he's relatable, man. He's a good guy. He's a good face. Sami Zayn is a solid mid-card face where he belongs. He is not a main event level face, and you know that. He's not that guy. Number one, Karrion Kross as well. This is another thing we have to talk about. Karrion Kross is a unmitigated jobber. You mean to tell me that this dude got so much hype on the internet for 2 or 3 months now going on because he did some random segment on an online podcast, and now you're telling me that this guy deserves to be pushed? Are you kidding me? Have you seen Karrion Kross in the ring? Like, have you seen this dude in the ring? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about at this point? We've seen Karrion Kross tonight. He is botchy. He is slow. His wrestling is a little bit patchy, in my opinion. And also, Karrion Kross doesn't appear in the ring like he's that athletic. He's obviously strong. He's a bigger dude, but he is not athletic enough to be pulling off these moves. And that's why he wasn't pulling off anything of note or anything interesting here. If you really think that Karrion Kross, if you take the lineage of what he's done in the last few years, and let's say that Karrion Kross never came back to WWE over the last few years, what would have changed about this company? Absolutely nothing. He's a jobber. We don't need Karrion Kross, as much as I hate to say it, because Karrion off camera, or what's called outside of WWE, seems like an amazing guy. You know what I'm saying? He seems like a great guy. But in the ring and as an actual performer, there is no way that this dude is entertaining. I'm sorry. There's a reason why he's been kept on the shelf in catering for years at this point. It just is what it is. Go to AEW and try that out. Maybe he gets over in AEW. You never know. But this Karrion Kross experiment is a joke. He's a jobber, and he's probably going to be released soon because this was his last chance to show himself before his contract expires later this summer. So this dude's probably going to get released after this performance because, man, he looks slow. He looked choppy. His moves are not that creative or that good. And there's no energy behind him in the crowd, realistically, right? There's a little bit, you know what I'm saying? They're like, yeah, he gets a mediocre pop, but this is not that guy. Like, it really isn't. Sami Zayn does the routine stuff. He has to battle back. They lift his arm up to see if he's knocked out, and all of a sudden he gets a chance to lift his arm up multiple times. But Jey Uso, remember when he lost to Gunther a few weeks ago, he just got his arm let up once and let down, and that was it. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, the whole booking and the rules of WWE are so inconsistent that Triple H probably doesn't even know what they are. He genuinely has no idea what's happening. Sami Zayn fights out, and then, he ultimately overcomes the bad guy and does good, hits the hula kick and gets the win. That's the end of the story here. Sami Zayn, I don't even know what to say about this guy. He is a mid-card jobber, but he is a decent mid-carder, I'll say that much. But Karrion Kross, we got to move on from this, man. This is not, we got to stop. We got to stop this. We can't have people like Ludwig Kaiser, getting booked into oblivion. R-Truth, Ronaldo Killings, you know what I'm saying? Ron Killings getting booked into oblivion now and getting knocked out by D-lister Black, sorry. You can't have people like this being treated like bums while Karrion Kross is getting on PLEs. I'm sorry to be like guy to bring stuff like that up, but it's facts. You got to get out. You got to move on from this stuff, man. Anyways, we then move on to Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. To me, this is the undisputed best part of the night. This match, I will say, was mid. It was pretty run-of-the-mill, routine stuff pretty much took place the entire match. However, Hikuleo debuted, Tonga Loa returned, Jefferson Cobb, you know what I'm saying, Corner Cobb, Jeff Cobb came out there and actually helped Solo get this W, and Solo Sikoa is your new United States champion. I will say, towards the end of the match, before all the interferences started, Jacob Fatu and Solo were kind of picking up some steam in the match. It was just starting to get going. You had a nice spike sell by Jacob Fatu. You had the interferences, too, that Fatu kicked out of, so he still kind of looked strong there. Obviously, Jacob Fatu was cooking in this match as well, towards the later parts, but overall, it was a decent match, I guess, in ring-wise, but what made it entertaining is the cameos and the showing up and, the returns of Tonga Loa, Hikuleo showing up, Jefferson Cobb. This is the type of stuff that actually makes Solo feel like a legitimate threat, and now with Hikuleo's big behind going out there, this dude actually now Solo feels like a credible U.S. champion that kind of feels unbeatable, even though he hasn't even defended it yet, You have those 3 guys working for you on the inside, doing inside jobs here and there, to help you out win matches. This is going to work going forward. The The only issue I have with this situation is simply the fact that, number one, Jacob Fatu's U.S. title reign I feel like was a little bit short-lived, and I feel like if you keep replaying the Jacob Fatu and Sol Sakoa situation, the mid-card is going to get stale, especially revolving around this belt. And the Bloodline storyline has already been very stale for a while now, so now that you're adding in an even newer member to this faction, I don't know how many legs how much legs this solo new Bloodline has again. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with this. I also don't know why Jimmy Uso didn't get involved in this match. He was just talking to Jacob Fatu last night on SmackDown. But hey, again, there's no continuity, there's no consistency. So why would you expect any? like it is what it is. Let's just be honest about it and move on. We then get on to Jade Cargill versus Asuka. I'll be honest, this is one of the most boring matches I've seen all year. I can't remember anything about it besides the fact that Jade countered Asuka at the end and hit the Jaded and won the match, and that was it. Very weird, kind of sloppy ending a little bit, kind of sped up. The crowd didn't react at all to anything Jade was doing the whole match, so that was a little bit awkward. Anyways, Jade wins the Queen of the Ring, and now she's going to fight Tiffany Stratton at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. She cut a really corny and kind of bad promo afterwards of the match, but it is what it is, man. Jade Cargill, I will say, I mean, look, her match with Naomi at WrestleMania was probably the last good singles women's match on a PLE that I've seen in a minute. The Becky and Lyra match at Backlash was okay. You know, it was a solid match. I guess it was on par with the Jade Naomi match, but still, outside of those two matches, like, when's the last time we've seen a good singles women's match? You know, so like this year, like when does it happen, you know? But it is what it is. Jade wins the Queen of the Ring. She's going to fight Tiffany Stratton, and there you have that. Then we get on to the main event. This main event between John Cena and CM Punk for the WWE Championship was essentially just stuff happening. That's really the only way to describe this. It was very slow and very patchy because they're clearly both older and they're clearly both washed in the ring. It is what it is. Every single move, like CM Punk's little kicks he does in the neck breaker, like the spin into the neck breaker is so slow now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really sad, but it's just slower now. John Cena's 5 moves of doom are way slower. It's not as entertaining anymore because it doesn't have the same speed. I do like the fact that John Cena did the roll through AA. That was a great sight to see. And even AA Bronson Reed, your boy Cena got that old man strength, he's not old, obviously, but, in wrestling years, he's got that old man strength, so it is what it is. But ultimately, just as every John Cena championship match has gone this year, it basically devolves into a match that starts off extremely boring and slow and kind of patchy, and then obviously, you get into a bunch of finishers. It just becomes an absolute finisher fest in the latter half of all of these matches. That's all it is. Bunch of mediocre wrestling, finisher fest, people get involved, Cena retains. Same format, same booking, very uncreative, and has zero nuance or creativity at all. It's pretty bad in my personal opinion, and I'm getting tired of it, to be honest with you. They did try and include some drama where Cena was going to use the title belt to hit Punk, but then, obviously Cena listened to the crowd, allegedly, Later he went back on that, which we'll talk about in a second, but Cena basically, after he gets GTS'd, he hit a couple AAs, he got GTS'd again, yada, yada, yada. Punk hit his moves, his elbow, everything like that. The Macho Man Randy Savage, yeah! He hits his elbow, and basically after that takes place, we then get John Cena doing his 5 moves of doom, but on the second shoulder tackle, he hits the ref because CM Punk dodged out of the way. After this happens, you immediately know a ton of shenanigans are going to basically start. I don't know why a ref didn't come out immediately after this, because when Seth Rollins came out, all he did was motion for a ref to come, and they came to the ring in 2 seconds, sorry. But anyways, I guess, like I said, there's no consistency, no continuity, and no coherence. So why would I expect any? You just have to ask yourself those questions when it comes to Triple H's garbage booking, okay? Anyways, after this takes place, the ref's knocked down. CM Punk's looking around because he had Cena easily done for a 3 count because Cena was knocked out in the ring, but there was no ref to take the count. Seth Rollins then comes out to the ramp because Punk's calling people to come out. Rollins then shows up with his garbage faction that makes no sense and is absolutely horrible and has no charisma or no chemistry. Again, not going to harp on that too much. We're just going to get into what actually happened. I don't want to break down the faction too bad here because I've done it millions of times before, it feels like. Okay, Rollins comes down to the ring with his faction. He then motions for Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed to go in the ring. They then fight against CM Punk. I don't know how they both got taken out in like 2 seconds, and then randomly they got the upper hand over Punk quickly, but it is what it is. After that takes place, CM Punk gets put through a table by Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker on the outside. Once that happens, Seth Rollins motions for a ref to come down to the ring, and then as the ref is coming down, I think it's Charles Robinson is the ref's name. He's been around for decades, obviously. As the ref's coming to the ring, John Cena just shoulder tackles this dude on the outside so he can't go in and try and and count for Rollins, you know? Cena saves himself his championship, goes in, AA's Rollins, and then he's taken out of the equation. Then Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed get involved to try and beat up Cena. CM Punk is magically up from getting put through a table. He then tries to, push Bronson Reed off. We then get Penta. You know what I'm saying? Penta just shows up. Sami Zayn then shows up. They brawl with Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker gets mysteriously just like hit by a crossbody from Penta, and then we don't see any of him for the rest of the show. So that's that. Bronson Reed then tries to tsunami Cena and gets pushed off the rope by Punk. I think I got the order wrong. Yeah, Punk pushed him off now. He says when he pushed him off the rope. Then Punk and Cena try and go for a handshake. They handshake. Cena does the dead stare at the cam like he did at Elimination Chamber, and then he tries to AA Punk. Punk counters. Then Cena counters out of that. Rollins hits Punk in the face with the briefcase, and then John Cena AAs, he doesn't get an AA, because Rollins curb stomps CM Punk, actually, and then Cena throws Rollins out of the ring and then pins CM Punk 1, 2, 3. So again, another tease of Cena potentially going face, but he alters back to being a heel character and retains his championship after a bunch of convoluted, messy, and bad booking. John Cena at this point, we have to have a dialogue about this, because at this point, you have to turn this dude face. I don't care if it happens at Saturday Night Main Event or at SummerSlam. We have to be done with this. I don't think that this heel run has been an absolute monstrosity, but it has not been good. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a case you can make for maybe it's been decent, because it's a new shade of Cena, and, we obviously are expecting him to go back to face, so this is a cool little experiment, but the way it's played out has not been good. So and in some parts, it's been really bad, so and especially with the booking of some of these defenses, it's just been really stupid. So at the end of the day, we have to now look at this and be honest with ourselves. At this point, Triple H, like I said earlier, does the same thing. At Mania 41, you had Travis Scott get involved. You were expecting The Rock. You have ref bumps. At Mania 40 last year, you have Undertaker, Rock, Roman, Cody, Rollins, Cena, Solo, the Usos. It's the same thing. At SummerSlam last year, Roman, Solo, Fatu, Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga, Cody, KO, and Randy Orton all show up at the end of the show. Like, it's every single match, even on Raw a couple weeks ago. Remember, you had Cody, Rollins, Jey Uso, Braun Breaker, Sami Zayn, everyone was showing up for that match. Like, dude, come on. When are we going to get just a good, genuinely great feud with a great story and ends up having a great match at whatever PLE it takes place at? The last time we've had that is probably Roman Reigns and Cody, because despite the interferences, that match before the interferences was still amazing. And it was the same thing at Mania 39. Their match and their feud was still really good then as well. So it's like, when are we going to get back to that level, man? Like, when is it going to happen? That's why Roman Reigns is so missed, because he's the only guy, it feels like, who can actually get that done. Like, it is what it is. So that's basically how this ends. Seth Rollins is immediately frustrated afterwards that he couldn't get the cash in, and him and Punk are still going on, costing each other matches and having this feud. This Punk and Rollins feud has been severely underwhelming. It's not entertaining anymore, and at the end of the day, they botched this feud. This should have culminated in them having either their first or their best of 3 match, the third one, happening at WrestleMania in just a singles match. But instead, we ended up getting Roman Reigns versus Seth versus Punk, and that was just a waste of time. Roman had the match, hasn't been seen since, and no one cares. This new faction sucks that stemmed from it. CM Punk has no reason to have to actually interact with Paul Heyman at all. Like, the whole inclusion of Roman and Heyman into this makes no sense. All you had to do was just have Rollins fight Punk in a part 3 or a part 1. That's all you had to do. But they convoluted it. They made this ongoing story that's not entertaining. You can't have 2 performers like Seth and Punk putting on a story this bad. It's just egregious at this point, man. It's all repetitive. They cost each other. They complain. You're a cancer to this industry. I can't stand you. I'm a revolutionary. I'm a visionary. And then Punk says, you know what? You're just mad because you're not as good as me. What's it called? You're just jealous of me. They were chanting my name. Like, dude, stop. This is a John Cena final run, and we're talking about Seth and Punk still. Let's move on. Have this dude cash in and get cost by LA Knight and move on with this already. But at the end of the day, main event was a convoluted disaster. The Solo and Jacob Fatu match was probably the best part of the show, just from a booking perspective, because Solo has been entertaining. He's pretty funny with his facial expressions too, so I'm okay with him winning. It's a change of hands. But again, this card had 2 title matches. On top of that, we also have to factor in the booking was absolutely atrocious in every match, and I broke that down for you guys. And at the end of the day, this is a garbage PLE. It is what it is. WrestleMania 41 remains the worst PLE of the year, but this is right now a close second to WrestleMania 41 as being the worst show of the year. And Money in the Bank is honestly vying with that too, because all the shows this year have been a definitive 5 out of 10 or worse, except for Elimination Chamber probably was like a 6 or a 7, because it was pretty decent in my opinion. However, outside of that, I don't know what other PLE or Saturday Night Main Event this year has been anything above a 5 out of 10. Genuinely. It's all been either below mid or straight garbage throughout all these shows. So this is no different. I'd give this show a 3 out of 10 max. It was absolutely trash, and it is what it is. It's expected garbage at this point. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought about Night of Jobbers in the comment section below. And as always, I appreciate your support. I thank you for your support. I love you. I respect you. And as always, have a phenomenal day. Peace out and one love.